Hi everyone. I'm back today to talk to you a little bit more about my journey with breast cancer. Today what I'd like to do is take you from the beginning up to the time that I actually got my diagnosis and just go through each step along the way with you. It was around mid-May and I happened to be talking to someone, and being Italian I do have that tendency to talk with my hands. And as I was talking, I happened to bring my hand across my chest like this. And instantly, the thought was, oh crap, something's not right. And I knew that something didn't feel right, but I still thought, well, maybe I bumped into something. Maybe it's just, I bruised myself somehow. Maybe it's nothing to worry about. And as the day kind of progressed, I did take the time to take a look, and I felt again and definitely could feel the thickness in my breast. I didn't feel anything else though. I didn't feel any other discomfort. It didn't hurt. I didn't notice any redness, any bruising, anything that might lead me to think that maybe I did just bump into something. And so briefly, I thought, well, I'll just kind of ride this out for a little bit. We're right in the middle of COVID. This isn't the best time to be going to a doctor's office or trying to get into the hospital. So maybe I'll just ride it out a little bit and see what happens. It didn't take me very long to realize that this wasn't something I should be waiting on. I needed to get in, I needed to see my PCP and at least let them take a look at it. Maybe it wasn't anything to worry about, but I still needed to get in. And so I made the call and got an appointment scheduled with my PCP. I was able to get in within a matter of a few days. And she checked and right away said, we're going to have to go ahead and send you for a mammogram. I'm also going to order an ultrasound. That way, if they do determine that they need to take a little closer look, they'll do the mammogram and then do the ultrasound afterwards. Okay, that sounded like a good plan to me. All of my information was sent to Kingman Regional Medical Center because that was where I had decided that I wanted to go for my mammogram and ultrasound. And so time went on a little bit. I was able to get my mammogram and ultrasound scheduled. On June 10th, my very dear friend Peggy, who has been by my side through all of this, rode along with me over to Kingman so that I could have the mammogram and the ultrasound done. We didn't really have a whole lot of conversation about this potentially being cancer. I don't think I really wanted to think a whole lot about it at that time. I was just going through the motions as though this was just something very routine. And so we made it to Kingman. I got in and had the mammogram done. I was asked to just sit and wait. And so I sat and waited, and eventually the tech came back and said, I had the radiologist take a look at this and he'd like to take a little closer look. So we're going to go ahead and get you in for that ultrasound. No problem. I still was just thinking everything was going to be fine, but they just want to take a closer look. So it's okay. And so I went back and they got me in there, did the ultrasound, and the tech said, I'm just going to have you just stay right where you're at for a minute. I'm going to go get the radiologist. And maybe that should have made me a little bit more aware that maybe there was a problem. I don't know. But I still was just thinking, they're just taking a closer look. It's okay. They just want to make sure that I don't leave here and they have to have me come back. They want to make sure they're getting good images. I think I was saying anything to myself that would make me feel better at the moment. And so the radiologist came in and had the tech look at the mass again. They did some more measurements, and then he said, I just want to take a look under your arm and see how your lymph nodes are. I think that was the first moment where I thought, this doesn't seem right. Now they want to look at my lymph nodes. But everything's going to be okay. So they checked the lymph nodes, did the measurements, and then the radiologist said to me, well, the good news is your lymph nodes look good. But I really wish I could be having a different conversation with you right now. He said, I highly suspect that this is cancer. And I don't know if I just kind of went numb at the moment, but I can remember just saying, okay, well, what's next? And he had told me that they were going to send me in to talk to someone about getting a biopsy set up. I've never had a biopsy before, so I really didn't know what to expect. But again, still thinking, well, everything will be fine. I'm just going to do what they ask me to do, and it's going to be fine. They got my friend Peggy, and Peggy and I went in and talked to this lady who went through step by step what to expect when I had the biopsy, letting me know that there might be some minimal discomfort, but it shouldn't be too bad. I'd be able to drive myself home, and just took me step by step through what I could expect next. And so I left there and got in my car, and my first call before I got out of the parking lot was to my daughter Mandy. And I really wanted to reassure her that everything was going to be okay, but I didn't know in my own mind what to think at that moment. And so I can remember telling her, I'm sure everything's going to be fine. There's no family history of breast cancer that I'm aware of. And so I just need to do this. But he did say that he suspects this is cancer. And I can remember hearing a little shakiness in her voice and knowing that, this is my baby. I've got to make sure she knows I'm okay. And so I just kept assuring her, everything's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Just, let your brothers know. I've got 5 children, and so I thought it might be best for her to reach out to them, and I would just get back on the road. And so I told her I loved her, said goodbye, and headed back down the road, me and Peggy. And I know there was some brief conversation about this potentially being cancer. And I know part of my conversation was that I had often found myself thinking, if there was ever a time when I had to deal with cancer, because there is a history of cancer in my family, just not breast cancer. But if there was ever a time when I had to deal with something like that, I wanted to go to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America. I had heard such great things and felt like that might be a really good option for me, but I didn't want to put too much thought into that right now. I didn't want to dwell on the negative. And so we went back to just casual conversation about other things. And got home, and I can remember having a few conversations with people saying, yeah, well, the doctor thinks it could be cancer, but we don't know that. So it's okay. It's going to be okay. And probably more reassuring myself than trying to reassure anybody else. So as time went on, eventually my PCP was able to get all of the information that she needed to be able to do the referral for a biopsy and get that sent over to Kingman Regional Hospital. On June 26th, I headed back to Kingman for my biopsy. I was a little bit nervous, but more because I didn't really know what to expect. They had explained everything to me, but there again, never having gone through a biopsy before, I didn't know what to expect. So I was taken back and given a gown to put on and taken back to the ultrasound room. It was an ultrasound guided biopsy. And the doctor came in, explained that they would be doing some numbing and then going back in with another needle that they would be taking tissue out. And the process actually was relatively painless. A small poke when they did the numbing, and then from there on it was really pretty easy. They told me that it was 3 or 4 samples that they were going to have looked at. They also placed a marker into the tumor and said that that would be easier for them to see if they needed to go back in and look at it again. And so after the ultrasound, I was then taken in and they did another mammogram to make sure that the marker had dropped into the tumor the way it was supposed to. And when that was over, they basically told me that I would be getting results and they would go to my PCP, who would be in contact with me to let me know what those results were. I went home still, I believe, feeling just not quite sure and still trying to keep that very positive, everything's going to be all right attitude. I have always dealt with things by trying to remain positive even through the toughest times. And that was the way I was going to handle this. It seemed like it took so long between the time that the biopsy was done and the time I finally got results. The waiting was the hardest thing for me. It was so hard to sit there day after day after day and not have the answers. I wanted the answers to my biopsy and I wanted them yesterday. Nothing felt like it was happening quick enough. Finally, the day came that I got the call from my primary care physician. And she said, "Jane, I've got the results of your biopsy." And she said, "I'm just going to read to you exactly what it says." She said, "Your results say that you have invasive ductal carcinoma, Nottingham grade 3. Honestly, I understood very few of those words. I understood invasive, I understood ductal, and I understood carcinoma. I knew at that point that I had cancer. I didn't know what the Nottingham grade 3 meant. So I asked my PCP, "Can you tell me what that means? What exactly am I dealing with?" And she said, "I'm so sorry." She said, I know that you have cancer. I don't know what the rest of this means." And she asked me, "Have you given any thought to where you'd like treatment?" Fortunately or unfortunately, I had. I knew I wanted to go to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America. In fact, I had already put some of the wheels in motion, just in case. And so once I had my diagnosis, I called up the Cancer Treatment Center and I said, it's cancer. What can you do to help me? What do I do next?" They requested my medical records and they set me up with a nurse navigator. Her name's Alicia, and she was so helpful. She really helped me to calm down and put things in perspective. She helped me to understand that breast cancer isn't necessarily a death sentence, and brought me to the realization that we had caught this early. That didn't mean that things were going to be easy, but it did mean that we had a better chance. Alicia also confided in me that she herself was a breast cancer survivor. That really helped me. It helped me to know that the person I was talking to had been through this herself. It gave me more confidence, more courage, and more strength to know that I wasn't alone, that she had felt all of the emotions, the concerns, everything that I potentially was going to go through. She had probably felt herself. They also set me up with an oncologist, a surgeon, a radiation oncologist, an endocrinologist, because I also have Hashimoto's disease, and they sent me up with someone to help me get some genetic testing done. I still didn't know a whole lot about my diagnosis at this point. It had a name, but I didn't really know what that meant. Thank you so much for being here with me. And as we move forward, I'll talk more about the diagnosis and the next steps that I went through. Please know that I'm going through this knowing that everything's going to be just fine. And I appreciate all the love and support that I've gotten from each and every one of you. We're still at the beginning of this journey, but I'm going to travel this path with strength, courage, and peace, knowing that I'm not alone and everything will be okay. I love each and every one of you. Peace and love. Until next time.